Welcome to the Beacon of Light podcast. My name is Sarah Kappos, and I'm here speaking with Tony Poole, who is the owner of Beecon Recovery, and he has, as always, some exciting new ideas that he wants to share with us, and that is the purpose of the Beacon of Light podcast, is the spread of light in the form of new ideas. Welcome, Tony. Here we are again.
Yes, here we are again. And it's interesting you're starting it off with what you just said,
Okay,
because that's what we are. Light.
true.
We are light, light, light. All of us are light. And all of us have crowns on top of our heads. But most of us, present company included, for a large portion of my life, I had no idea that I had a crown on my head. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do, and I did.
When did you find this out?
I don't know. Before, now, I'm still finding it out every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every day is an opportunity for us to learn and to grow. I don't know, a while ago, maybe a couple years ago, maybe even longer than that. I really don't know. I'm not good with dates. But I thought, what am I doing? Oh, it was when I decided I thought I was going to retire. Yeah, I thought I was going to go golfing every day because that's what we want to do. We want to go play, right? I mean, so that's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I got pretty good. I mean, for those people that are listening, if you've never done golf, don't because, well, it's highly addictive, right? Ugh, yeah. And you're never going to get any good at it. Well, I shouldn't say that. That's kind of, you are. I tried, got my handicap down to a 12.
I have no idea what that means, but
Well, for those people that are listening, it's not bad. I can go play golf, or at least I could, 3 years ago, whenever I was at a 12 handicap. And that was from the black tees. Oh, yeah. The black tees means the furthest away, right?
mm-hmm.
Versus the women's tees. We're not going to talk about golf. Nonetheless, I was playing golf every day.
Okay.
Got really good at it. And then one day, I don't know where I was. It was at 7 something in the morning. Not a cloud in the sky. It's going to be a nice day. All right. I think I hit it on the first green, and there's dew on the green. So my ball goes across. It makes a little line in the dew, right? Oh, yeah. It's going to be a good day. And I remember being on that green thinking, really? This is it? This is what you're doing?
Is this all there is?
Is this, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you get to go play golf every day, right?
And how long ago was this, do you think?
I don't know, 6. It was before I started Beecon, so I don't know. Beecon started in, I think, February 2019, so it was before then, probably 6 months before then-ish.
Okay.
But I just remember thinking, what am I doing? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, kind of selfish, I think, of me. At least, look, and that's not to say if you're out there golfing every day, that's good for you, right? But for me, I remember, and I didn't have a very good day on the golf course that day either, if I recall. Matter of fact, I think I only played half. So then I started thinking, well, what am I going to be when I grow up? I mean, what am I going to do, right? And we want to do what we can. I mean, what are we here for? And once again, for the purposes of this podcast, past podcast, and any future podcast we're going to do, we're going to hear what I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if anything I say, anybody out there in Podcastville, right? If you all can say, yeah, Tony, you're full of shit. What you just said isn't true. Then you're going to figure out a way to get a hold of Sarah, right?
You're going to email Sarah at ownitslc@gmail.com.
There it is. Or you can email me at tony@beeconrecoveryutah.com, and you can say, Tony, I think what you just said on your podcast is not true.
Yes, please email us and give us
And we're gonna,
the heat. We want it.
Listen, I don't know what I don't know.
Sure.
And perhaps, I'm full of it.
So come back to the golf course.
Oh.
Tell me, finish the story for me,
So
please. I'm in the story.
Okay, great day. And so I started thinking,
Mhm.
you know, what are we going to do with ourselves? Well, let's figure something out that's going to benefit others. Because that's the way I've always been. I'm the guy that'll stop when somebody's got a flat tire, especially when it's cold. I'm that guy. I will do that, and I've done it. So I thought, well, I don't know. But what I do know is I can ask someone that does know. I've got a go to that I
Mhm.
go to for stuff, heavy stuff, big stuff, little stuff, well, everything stuff. I go to God. He has never let me down,
Mhm.
even when I let myself down, right? He's always been there. He always will be there, right? Sometimes I feel like I'm alone, right? But I'm never alone. I've never been alone. So that's when I said, okay. And there's different types of prayers. There's the prayer where uh, it's cold, right? And I just got in my bed and I'm about to fall asleep and I'm like, oh man, I didn't say my prayers. And it's mostly because I didn't really offer any kind of gratitude for this day.
Mhm.
When I say my prayers, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, because I think, well, what if all I had tomorrow is what I offered gratitude for today? So if I wake up tomorrow and all I have in my life is the only things that I was grateful for the night before, would that change my prayer? Well, it would, and it did. So sometimes, though, because I'm a human, right? I'm like, oh man. So I'll roll out of bed, and it's cold. I sleep with the window open, even in the winter. I'm that guy. So it's cold. I'm in a bit of a hurry, and so I don't really offer the best prayer. I try, right? There's a word that needs to be omitted from my vocabulary. Um, but then there's the other one, and that's also a cold. But now I don't have a lot of money for this part of the story, uh, and I got just enough gas to get home. There's slush all over the place. Maybe I'm on the freeway, and this little light comes on my dash. My idiot, one of those idiot lights comes on, and it says, "Well, you've got some problems." And then, of course, to make matters worse, my car kind of stops, and I gotta meander and just kind of pull over to the side of the road. Everybody's zipping by because nobody gives a shit about me, and why should they? I mean, that prayer. My heart is thumping because I'm in a bad way. Well, that's kind of the prayer that I was offering. Okay, what's up? I mean, what am I gonna do? What's my next move? What do you got? I mean, because you were with me on the golf course when you gave me that recognition that this isn't it, because that's where that came from. You know, yeah, you've said this, I've said this. Hey, I had a great idea. Have you ever said that?
Yeah, to you.
Right. Well, here's what I'm going to suggest. If you have a good idea, if if I have a good idea, is it mine? I'm going to say to you, from my perspective, that it isn't my idea if it is a good one, right? If it's a good one, then I have to give credit where credit's due because I'm just a guy. Then we got God, who in fact is, well, God, right? So the idea that's good is his. And so when I'm on that golf course on the first tee, actually I was on the first green when this came to me. It was a great idea. What are you going to do, right? Well, whatever you're going to do, it's got to be something that's going to benefit because that's what we're here for, right? I see you suffering, whoever you are. I'm going to want to do something to assist you with whatever you've got going on that day, right? Whoever you are. Um, have I shared with you the smile story with reference to the Golden Gate Bridge?
You have, but I don't know if you've shared it with everyone.
Have I shared it with you? No, no. So here's the way it goes. I read an article, and they're studying people that have attempted to commit suicide by jumping off of the Golden Gate Bridge. Now, at this time, there was 600 something people that had made this attempt, and there were 40 something that actually didn't succeed. They actually lived. And briefly, some of those 40 somethings, their story goes, literally, we're talking about prayer. Here's what prayer for you. This person's jumped off the bridge. On the way down, they're like, oh, wait, this was a mistake. I want a do over. I don't actually want to die like I wanted to a few seconds ago. That's a prayer.
Mm.
Well, guess what? Some of you folks weren't successful in your endeavors to kill yourself, and that came on the way down. You can pray anytime,
Mm.
and all the time, your prayers are going to be received, even if you're in midair falling to your death, and you're asking to not be dead when you hit the water. Now, for the purposes of this conversation, though, this story, they went to a particular individual. This guy actually was successful in his endeavors to commit suicide, but they went back to this man's house. And I don't know if this story's true, but it's dang sure, I think it is, right? But they went to his house and they found a note somewhere that said, I'm going to walk to the Golden Gate Bridge to kill myself. Um, unless someone smiles at me. Well, nobody did. What? Are you telling me then all somebody had to do was to smile at you and you wouldn't have done what you did? It's that simple to be kind to somebody that I don't even know, but it doesn't make them any less my brother. It doesn't mean that we don't share the same Father in heaven, and it doesn't mean that that Father in heaven doesn't love you. So perhaps that story we get to use to share, which is what I'm doing right now. So the next day, I put that to the test. I was at Costco, and I was wheeling my cart to go get whatever it is I was going to go get, and there was a lady. She was coming from the left, down one of them side aisles where all that they sell all that junk. You know the aisles where they sell all the crap that's not good for you. I mean, they got some stuff that's good for you mixed in, but most of it's a bunch of junk, right? It's making my mouth water thinking about it. Anyways, I'm going back. I'm in a hurry, and she's coming this way, and we do this. We do this dance where who's going to go. So I'm like, go ahead. And so she does. And then I ram the shit out of her cart with my cart, like a little kid. And we had fun. And I let her know, I see you.
Mm-hmm.
I let her know, I'm going to smile at you and we're going to have a good time. And we did. Maybe she woke up that morning and said, unless somebody acknowledges and I don't know if that's going to happen, but I don't care because every single person I come in contact with, you and I, where we were at that restaurant, which, by the way, we can give them a plug. Really good food. What was it called? Remember? Where we talked to the chef when he was coming out of the bathroom when I asked him if he washed his hands?
The Violet.
Yeah, great food. And the
Mm-hmm.
chef came out, the guy that has all those recipes, and I knew he was coming out of the bathroom because we were sitting right by there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, did you wash your hands? It's the Jerry Seinfeld episode where the guy doesn't wash his. Okay, anyway, so and here again we laughed, and
Mm-hmm.
that man said yes, and I got to tell him, you know what,
Mm-hmm.
this is really good food.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the look on his face and the
Yeah.
energy that was exchanged?
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Perhaps he got to hear that because he got to hear that. There are no accidents, right? And so that's what I do, and that's why um, Beacon is in existence. Because when I said those prayers, okay, you told me that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing in the sense of playing golf every day. You being God, you brought this good idea, which was to do more than go golf out all day, to me. So I started asking. Now, I wasn't asking to the intensity of I pulled over to the side of the road, my heart's thumping because I don't know what I'm going to do prayer, but I was pretty in. It was a pretty intense series of prayers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the funny part. When he gave me the answer and told me to do this, I told him no. How many times have we ever done that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Consider the arrogance, because it was going to be too hard. Because this is going to require a lot of time, a lot of money that I didn't have, and a lot of things. And all these doubts are going through my you know what I mean? My brain, right, is telling me, yeah, no. And I even told him, you know what? Let's go with option B. Where is option B? You got something else for me? Because I don't want to do that.
I
Well,
understand that feeling. I had a similar experience with my son Jack. I was given a dream about that, opening up to having a baby, and
oh,
I was like, no, I can't be doing that right now. I am 37 years old. I just got divorced.
yeah.
Like, what do you? And I said no and said no.
Well,
But the heart knows. And
for everybody that can hear this and see us, let me just explain something to you. That little boy,
yeah,
oh,
Jack.
yeah,
Mhm.
he, he's something.
He is.
And I don't know, is it even possible for him to be any cuter than he is?
I don't think so.
He's adorable, and his energy is okay. So yes, you were telling me a story about uh,
Well, I just that I understand holding those two things simultaneously, knowing the heart, the spirit, knowing this this is coming from outside of myself. This is divine guidance. And then the brain arguing with the divine guidance and saying it's not practical and all the reasons that it's not practical, but the divine guidance is so certain. There's no room for doubt. And so the brain will do my brain did its thing, but I knew. I just knew. And there's a lot of help, a lot of grace that comes once one decides to step into that guidance and say, okay, here we go. I
well,
don't understand.
yeah,
I'm scared. I don't know how this is all going to work out, but
well,
okay.
okay. So that brings to mind,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we're just gonna bounce all over, just kind of see where this is gonna go, because we're having a conversation to delve into the concords of what goes on between my two ears and why I'm doing what I'm doing, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lady in the Bible. I don't know her name. Nobody does. But her story, it it's it saved my life and changed my life when I really delved into her story and what she must have gone through and the faith that she had, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the story goes, and back then in Jesus' day, because Jesus was walking this planet when this for the purposes of this story. So back then things were a little different for women than they are now. It wasn't a good time to be a woman unless you hung around Jesus, which most folks didn't get the opportunity to do. So this woman, as women do now, she then she got her period, right? And I don't know the exact particulars, but when that happens, there's a tent for you all to go to because you ain't gonna be around me because you're not clean.
The Red Tent.
Is
It's
that
actually, there's a book called The Red Tent, and it's a fabulous book. And
okay?
it's about that very tent
Okay, so
where women go to bleed. Yes.
over there
Yes.
now, they also have to go get cleansed. So if I'm married to somebody and she gets her period, I'm gonna tell my wife, you get to go over there until you aren't doing that. Can you imagine? Okay, so this woman, this happens,
Mm-hmm.
and she goes over there. Well, it doesn't stop. It just, well, keeps on going.
Mm.
And they're like, well, you got a problem. So she goes to the doctors and they take her money and they don't fix it. And then it gets really bad to where she can't even be in town. Now she's got to go over there. She can't hang out at the tent. You know, you've outweared you can't be here in the tent, the red tent anymore because, well, you're weird because that's not stopping and it's supposed to. So you must be, I don't even know what they might have said to her. Are you cursed? I mean, whatever. You're not clean. Go.
Mm-hmm.
So now there she is. And this is where my mind starts thinking, well, how does that look for her? Right?
Mm-hmm.
She can't go, do what her job is, whatever it was, if she even had one, because she's living over there by herself. Now, this goes on for, oh my gosh, for 12 years, this lady.
Mm.
How does she eat? What does she do when it rains? Does it snow? And if it does, I mean, what exactly is she doing that until that? I mean, she doesn't have any friends because, well, she's filthy. Can you imagine? I mean, 12 years, that's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day, she hears about this fellow named Jesus, and he's doing some really fun stuff. People that can't see now can because of him. People that can't walk can because of him. Lepers, you know, are fixed whole. So she's thinking to herself, wow, I think he can do that for me too. I know I can. I know he can. There's the faith. But for her, it takes on a different meaning because she says to herself, I can't hug him. I'm sure she's thinking, I can't go grab his hand. But all I got to do is touch his clothes, the hem of his garment, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she knows where he's at because she's heard the stories. He's over there. And she sneaks into town. She had to because, of course, if she's discovered, they're going to say, wait, I done told you, don't come back in town, remember? I mean, if somebody sees her, they're going to tell her to leave, like they've probably done in the past. So she does. She sneaks in. And she's just kind of hanging out. Here we go again, that faith. He's going to walk by me. I know he's going to walk by me. And all I got to do is touch the hem of his garment. And if I do that, or when I do that, rather, this is all going to stop. Okay, so the other part of the equation, there's another 12-year little thing because there's a child of one of these Romans. Now, that guy, right? Now, if I understand the story correctly, you can't even go into their neighborhoods, much less into one of their homes, these Romans, if you're a Jew, right? But this particular Roman, right? I don't know how much of a big shot he was, but he's one of them. He says, wow, I've heard about that fellow Jesus, and my kid is really sick, maybe even dying or dead. Don't really know, really. But I do know that Jesus is in a hurry because he catches wind that he can go do something for that. And it's a great opportunity to do some, further his cause in reference to bringing people to God, which is what he's all about, Jesus, right? Bringing people to the Father. So he's in a hurry. And as he's in a hurry, and I kind of visualize it like being at a concert where there's a bunch of people, and if,
Mm.
if you go to get some drinks or maybe you're going to go to the bathroom, you go to the concert, you go to the bathroom, you come back to get to where you once were, the person that's waiting for you, there's just a bunch of people and you're kind of, rubbing elbows and people, you know what I mean? It's like that. There's a bunch of
Mm.
people there. Well, that's where he is. And they're moving out smartly because they're going to go do some stuff and he's going to go save this child. And then she manages as he's whisking by because he's in a hurry to do just that, touch the hem of his garment. Dang. Can you imagine? I can. What that must have been like for her.
Mm.
Because when she does, it stops. Right then, the issue of blood stopped. But the fun part is he stopped. Jesus did. Dead in his tracks. And says, and I quote, who touched me? Now, his apostles are like, dude, what are you talking about? Who touched you? What? Everybody's touching you. We're in the square. There's elbows hitting you. Da 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 da. I mean, who touched you? No, no, no. This one's different, Jesus says. I felt virtue leave me. And of course, I'm sure she's probably thinking, oh my gosh, I've been discovered. They're going to kick me out.
Mm.
But that's not what happened. He acknowledged her. Jesus did. So there's faith. Now, that faith is there for all of us because Jesus is there for all of us. There's the fun part. Yay. We,
You know what I noticed in that story, because I've heard that story a couple times, is I think had that woman not spent the 12 years that she spent in suffering, she would not have been in that state where she had such faith, or where she felt, okay, this is all I need. Like all, and where she longed for healing so much, and had longed for healing for so long, that it did something to her heart and soul. Because so often people, perhaps all the other people who were, milling around in the square, they're busy, they're distracted, they have stuff going on. But she was in a process of uh, solitude and contemplation
yeah,
and
yep,
isolation, and so
yeah.
that's an aspect of the story that I hadn't
Well,
considered before.
I think other people in the square, most of them, they're also wanting a piece of Jesus.
Sure,
That's why they're there.
but they were not where she was.
Uh-uh.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a bit of a line to go meet up with her, of which I will be in when I cross over,
Mhm.
because her example, well, it really just saved me because I get to draw on that example, right?
Mhm.
Um, and, you know, it really kind of speaks to the importance of women.
Mm.
I think oftentimes we kind of lose sight as men, right, of the importance of women, right? I had an argument. I'm divorced right now, but I had an argument with my previous. This isn't why I got divorced, but this happened. My wife said something to me, right? And I remember thinking, what? And by the way, what I'm about to share with you didn't go over very well. I don't know why, but it didn't. I think, did I share the story with you? I think I did. I told her, you're you're batshit crazy. What you just said, that is crazy. Don't know why, but she didn't take that very well. Imagine that. Well, here we go back to God and me praying. And so I go off over there because she went off over there. And we're not in the same room. Um, and then God came to me. I didn't hear the words, I felt them. And He said, is she real? Well, yeah. Okay, so she's real. Well, that means I put her there. See, your brain doesn't work like her brain, obviously. So instead of saying, he didn't say batshit, he said, instead of saying she's crazy, perhaps you should listen to what she just said to you and take a look at that perspective that your brain would have never comprehended because, well, you're a man. And that was a game changer for me,
Mm.
right? In reference to communication. And it's not just her, it's everybody we come in contact with, male or female. Everybody's got a perspective and it's to be respected, which of course is why we are at Beecon Recovery. Everything's going to funnel back to Beacon in this conversation because that's what we're here for. We're here to talk about um, what we can all do, right? Because men, women, young, old, doesn't matter. If they're stuck in their addiction, they're suffering, right? So back to the green, right? He told me, wasn't that day.
Mhm.
This is what I want you to do. I remember I went back to, well, what's plan B? Um, but this is what he would have me do. And this is very difficult. It's very time consuming. It's very energy sucking, if that's the right verbiage. I mean, you know, these people that are stuck in their addictions, they're no less people than we are. They're just lost. And I suppose all of us are lost in varying degrees, one way or the other, right? But that's what a beacon of light is. I mean, imagine, oh, let's see, I don't know, being in a desert and you've been out there for a hot minute You don't have any more food. You've long since ran out of water, and you keep going, and one dune turns into another dune, and it's just like, and it's maybe dark outside, and you're almost done. You're spent, and you're at the point where you're like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. I can't, right? And you get over that last dune, and over there you say, oh my gosh, look at that. I can see the light, that beacon of light. Well, you get a burst of energy. You found strength that you didn't know you had, and you walk towards that light. That's what we do. We are a beacon. We are all light, light, light. And we get to shine our light for those that are, well, needing that. And we get to go and we get to teach them about love, right? Love, in my opinion, is the greatest equalizers that are available to us. But self-love is a trick.
What do you mean?
Well, it's easy to love someone else. It's easy to give love to somebody else, right? Maybe my wife or my child. There's a good one. I mean, it's really easy to give love to my child. But if I'm holding on to this guilt from my childhood, which oftentimes we do, which is what I did, you know, it's a little more difficult to love oneself. And it makes it virtually impossible to let others love us when we don't love ourselves. I can only be loved by others as much as I love myself. The best way, I guess, to give an analogy, I like a lot of word pictures, is to imagine that you have a bucket of water, and the objective is to fill that bucket with water. That's your goal. So here you start to pour fluid, in this case, it'll be water, into that bucket. Now, the fun thing is, if once you get that bucket full of water, it'll overflow, right? And it'll trickle down, and it'll make a real pretty sound. And maybe that that water is going through the brook, right? Some rocks, and it's we've all seen the sound. It's very calming. But you got to get the bucket full. Unfortunately, there's some holes in the bottom of the bucket, making it virtually impossible to fill it. Self-love, for me, is plugging those holes, making us, with our love cup runneth over, basically, right? But it's really difficult, and it was for me, to love me, because I was taught limiting beliefs from a very early age, right? Beliefs that, perhaps I'm not good enough, because that's what I was taught. And I'm not saying my parents are bad people, because they're not. They're good. They were good. They did, in my opinion, the best that they knew how to do with what they had. But they still, dang, dang. And so I was taught, you ain't good enough. Don't even try. So I believed those things.
What do you believe now?
What do I know?
What do you believe?
I believe that I am a servant, that I am put on this planet to love me. And then in so doing, I can spread my light to all those that I come in contact with. I believe that it's okay to smile at somebody that I've never seen. I believe it's okay to start a conversation with somebody that I've never talked with or seen before. I believe that I will go through my entire life forever loving others. I believe that that's what we're here for, right? And I believe in the truth. Ooh, there's one for you, the truth. What exactly is the truth? Well, there's universal truth. I mean, right now it's light outside, it's the day, right? I could try to convince you that the sun's not up, but of course your truth, which is my truth, which is everybody's truth, when the sun is up, we all know that the sun is up, right? That's what I refer to as a universal truth. where things get murky is, well, when we start talking about individual truth. Well, my individual truth is, what do I believe? I believe that God exists. I believe that He's always been there and always will be. And I also believe, right, that I'm nothing without Jesus Christ. And I also believe that I'm everything with Jesus Christ. That's what I believe.
So there are many people who would say those are universal truths.
And those are my people. That's my tribe. I agree with you, but unfortunately, there are some that don't. Maybe some of those people that don't, maybe they're stuck in their addiction to their heroin or their meth or their porn or their alcohol or whatever it is. And for the purposes of Beacon Recovery, we deal primarily with substance addiction.
Well, so that's a bold statement because what you're saying is that people who don't believe in God and Jesus are stuck in their addiction.
No, what I'm saying that the people that are stuck in their addictions are lost,
Okay.
right? Um, because if they weren't, well, present company included, you were lost, I was lost when we were stuck in our addiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say that we don't think that God exists when we're stuck in our addiction, because the entire time I was stuck in my addiction, I knew God existed. I just didn't draw on Him. And here's why. Um, Once again, this is just me, but when I did that thing, whatever that thing was, I'm told that I'm not good enough because I just did that thing. Whether it's a needle in my arm, or a bottle in my mouth, or a pill getting whatever it is that I'm doing, oh man, that's not what God's about. And so when I've done these things, then God, well, He doesn't want to hear from me. So I would remove myself from God because I'm believing that limiting belief, that lie, that I'm not good enough because of what I've just done.
So do you think that God doesn't want to hear from you, or are you saying that you believed that God didn't want to hear from you?
I'll take option B on that one
Okay.
because God always wants to hear from us.
Mm-hmm.
Always. But it's me, that chose not to reach out to Him when I just did that thing. And so what I would do is I don't know, the word penance is coming to my mind. In other words, I would make myself suffer. Or oftentimes I would say, well, I've gone and stepped off in it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I might as well live here for a bit. Drinks are on me. Woohoo. I mean, really, I
Yeah.
would stay in that space for a minute. But always in the back of my mind, every time I'm taking the next drink or whatever it is I'm doing, I'm knowing that this is not His way. But He lovingly just lets me go and do these things. But eventually I would find my way back and I would stop doing those things that I should not be doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I would slip up and do some stupid shit again. And then, of course, I'm dirty again. I'm not worthy. There's the word for you. I'm not worthy.
What do you think about the word worthy?
I think we're all worthy. That's what I think. I don't care what we've done. I don't care what we think we've done. We are all worthy. 100% of the time. I know that no matter what I do, He still loves me. And no matter what I do, Jesus takes care of it for me. So I'm always worthy. That crown has always been in my head. It always will be, regardless of what I've done, right? He always wants to hear from me, and He always wants me to draw nearer to Him. And He also wants me, right, to do what I can to bring, well, others to Him.
So how do you reconcile having this belief in God and in Jesus and no longer having the religion as a part of that?
Oh, man. You're going to go there.
Yeah.
Oh, you little sneak.
Well, I think it's important because
Yeah,
I think it's important for people to hear the message that
yeah,
you can have the beliefs in God and Jesus that you hold so dear,
yeah,
and to have also severed from a religion
yeah.
that was, in my understanding from what you've told me, uh, hard, not good for you, or painful, or not the truth as you would like to live in it.
Well, all right. This vial that is hot as you don't
Are
know
you
what.
talking about the Maverick
Yeah, well,
mug?
this I called it a vial. This thing
Yes.
is full of coffee,
Right.
right? That I've girlied up, but it's still very hot, and I
Okay.
I enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up being taught that I'm not supposed to drink coffee,
Right.
right? So I did some research, and
Mm-hmm.
I looked
Where did you look?
in everything I could find,
Okay.
every scripture
Mm-hmm.
that I could find, every what we call scripture, and you can just use your own imagination as to the scriptures I went and looked at, but I looked at all of them
Okay.
to see where those scriptures said that coffee wasn't something I was supposed to drink. Well, guess what, Sarah?
I've done that research as well.
Oh, well, can you tell everybody the passage in whatever scripture you've looked at that says coffee is not something we're supposed to drink?
Doesn't exist.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Oh, does it say anything about hot drink?
Yes.
It does, right?
Yeah.
Which means no more hot chocolate for everybody,
Right.
because that's hot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well there it is. So what I've come to is my relationship with my Father in heaven and my mother in heaven. Yeah, she exists. We don't talk about her much, but she exists. She's real, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she loves me,
Mm-hmm.
and she loves you, and she loves all of us. And one day, her and I are going to meet up, and that's going to be a good day. But what was
And
the question again?
how do
Oh my
you?
gosh, I start thinking about her, and
Well, yeah. And
yeah,
then
yeah,
and
yeah.
then the good enough question will be completely irrelevant.
It is irrelevant
It is. I agree.
right now
Yeah.
because of Jesus.
So the question was, how do you reconcile, or how do you deal with holding these beliefs about God and
Ah,
Jesus,
yeah, the religion.
separate from
Yeah,
the religion?
yeah. Well, what I've come to the conclusion, uh, my truth,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not knocking you people that are going to go every church Sunday and doing all the things that whatever your church is says. I had a friend of mine that she studied, and I think she talked with quite a few people that had what we know as near-death experiences,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the research that she did with the things that those people had to say when they've crossed over, because those people went, and I don't know if they got in front of Jesus, but they asked whoever was over there when they went there, when they were dead, right? What church do I go to? And you would think that whatever your church you're going to is going to be the one that he said. Well, that's not what he said to them. Multiple. He said, whatever church brings you closer to me.
Uh-huh.
Well, okay. So what I have come to the conclusion is that I pray to God, Father in heaven, third eye, chakra, deity. I don't care what we call it. It's a higher source. I refer to it as my Father in heaven, right? But I talk to him. And the fun thing is, he talks with me. Um, and so there it is.
Mm-hmm.
Organized religion, that doesn't have a real big place for me right now. What does have 100% of my heart is Jesus Christ. There's not a room. Now, look, when you go to Beacon, there's a lot of people with a lot of offices. What you do in your office is your gig, but out in the common areas, we got pictures of Jesus. He's
I
all
know.
over the place,
I
right?
know.
Um, because, well, once again, it's Beacon Recovery is owned by me, so we're going to do things my way, and Jesus is the way. So I get to put pictures. I keep waiting for somebody to say to me, "Hey, wait a minute. What do you? No, you can't do that. You can't bring Jesus into your facility." I'm like, "Well, yes, I can, and I will because He's in my heart. Jesus
Mm-hmm.
is. Um, Nothing is possible without Him." And wow, uh, how fortunate I am that Jesus did what he did for me and you. Whether you, whoever you are, realize it or not, doesn't mean he doesn't love you, doesn't mean it's not the truth. And you're right, there are a lot of people that agree with me on that as a universal truth, but there are also some out there that don't. And that's okay. But when you come to Beacon, we're going to share our truths that Jesus does live. He didn't go anywhere, right? And neither did God. If you look back into the I don't know, the 30s and the 40s, right? They didn't have TVs back then. The only form of entertainment, as far as electronic devices, because there's lots of ways they can entertain themselves, and they did, but they had these big giant radios back then, right? And I don't think a lot of people could afford radios. So the people that could afford radios, I think oftentimes would invite friends and family from around to come listen to this week's broadcast of whatever show was going to be broadcasts. Now, these radios, they have these real big dials. And I'm thinking that, from last week to this week, because tonight we're going to have another broadcast, but in between last week and this week, some little baby that's watched what is about to happen has probably went and fiddled with that dial. So it's not in tune anymore. So somebody goes over, they flip this thing on. I'm thinking the tubes get warm, and then you hear a, because it's not in tune, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody, usually I think, with authority, I mean a grandfather, grandfather, grandma, somebody, maybe dad, right? They'd walk over to that knob. Welcome to this week, and as soon as he got that thing in tune,
Mm-hmm.
you could hear the transmission coming from wherever it was because you got it in tune. Well, why are we any different? Why can't we turn that knob to get in tune, to hear what God has to say to us?
Well, maybe we're babies and we don't know how yet.
Maybe that's why we come to places, right, where others that have been where we have been,
Mm-hmm.
they can teach us things that they have learned, which is what we do at Beacon.
Yeah.
Because there was a time in my life, right, I wasn't in tune at all. Doesn't mean he didn't love me. It just means that I wasn't doing what was necessary to receive his correspondence, transmission, um, answer to prayers, whatever you want to call it, right? It wasn't.
I understand.
I
My
was.
my mentor says the call is always present, and I just became someone who could hear it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and if I'm, once again, this is just Tony, but if I'm out doing things, right, thinking things that are counter to what he teaches, well, or even saying to him, you know what, I don't want to talk, right? I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to, well, when I don't do it, well, then he's not gonna, right? I got to go to him. I,
Mm-hmm.
I have to, you know, um, and so that's what I do. But, sometimes, with what I do, I get really busy and sometimes I forget. Well, the
Sure.
fun part is though, I can go to him anytime I want. I don't have to be on my knees. I mean, there's some respect with being on my knees, but sometimes it just didn't work out that way. If I'm driving down the road, maybe I'm at the gym in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's all kinds of people running around, right? And I'm in my own little bubble having a conversation with God. We can go to him anytime. And every single time we go to him, I'm not talking about, you know, 50%, 60, 70, 80, 90, not even 99.9999. 100% of the time that we go to him, he's going to hear it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But now the fun part is, are we going to be receptive to when he comes to us and gives us the answers? I'll share a story. We have a patient at Beacon Recovery, right? And we are teaching people the power of prayer. and the validity, the truth to prayer, that it actually does work. So this particular person says to me, I get wind that, and this is back when I had a lot to do with the day to days of Beacon, right? But I get wind that this person wants somebody from the staff to go with her to her appointment for her probation. Now, there are different types of probation officers, right? There's private probation, and those folks, all they're doing is making recommendations to the courts, right? But then there's adult probation. Now, those folks, they're a little different. They have badges and guns and, well, handcuffs. Then they can take you to jail, right? Well, this particular individual, this young lady, she thinks that she's going to go to jail, and she's a little worried. So she asks if she can have somebody go with her to her probation. And I'm like, we did this with every single person going to an appointment with their probation officer. We would never get any work done. So typically we don't do that. But here we go. I'm told to let her go. Remember being in tune? Okay. Well, I am, right? I'm not perfect, but I do, and I am very receptive to what's going to be coming my way. And so I'm told, let her go with somebody from your staff. And so off they go. Well, the next day she comes back into my office with tears in her eyes. This young lady does, wanting to share her experience when she went to probation. And I have no idea what she's going to say to me. And I'm like, okay, I'm busy. Put my stuff down and stop what I'm doing and I'm listening. She says, okay. So I sit down at his desk and he says to me, I'm probably going to arrest you today. So her fear, yeah, her fears were realized.
Mm-hmm.
But then something interesting happened, right? And this is how it goes. I'm going to be him. I'm probably going to arrest you today. And he starts looking out of his window. Now, the minute that his head turned and he's looking out of his window, she then says, oh, wait, Tony's been talking to me about this prayer thing. I'm going to do that right now. So she says a prayer. Now, once again, her prayer was like the one I gave you, the description where the heart is thumping. My car ran out of gas. Remember that one earlier? Okay.
Yeah.
That's a kind of prayer that she sang.
Mm-hmm.
Very intent. So while he's staring out the window, she's saying a prayer. And according to her story, he was actually looking out that window for maybe 12, 15, maybe 20 seconds. And the entire time he's doing that, she's praying. He then turns back and looks at her and says, but I'm not going to. Now she knows for her
Mm-hmm.
some fun things. One, I can say a prayer. Two, he's going to hear my prayer. And oh my gosh, sometimes he answers them just like that quick. In her world, that's what just happened because, well, it's her truth.
Mm-hmm.
I share her truth, but now she's saying this with tears in her eyes that she now knows God exists and he hears my prayers. And, well, sometimes he answers them, but sometimes he doesn't answer them that quick. Sometimes he answers them, well, when he decides. It's She was able to see the result of that prayer right then and there. Sometimes we have to wait a little longer, right? But we get to recognize when that happens. So she did, and then she's saying these things with tears in her eyes, and I'm like, wow. And I'm crying, right? And the person that went with her is also, I mean, because the spirit is just so strong,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so then I say to her, would you mind sharing your testimony with the other folks in your group? She was like, what's that? I'm like, well, your testimony is you testifying of your truth,
Mm-hmm.
sharing that experience, right? I mean, it's one thing to hear it from me, right? Or anybody that's in our staff. It's an entirely different thing because she's one of them,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so she, of course, loved the opportunity and she went and did that, right? I didn't go. That's her experience, but it's real. So earlier you asked me, what does that look like to you? What is love? Well, that right there, that is love,
Mm-hmm.
right? That is, and it's fun, right? So I think back to me on that green, complaining, Well, not so much then, but when I asked for that direction, and he told me, well, this is what I want you to do, and I selfishly said, I don't want to do that, right? Then we can fast forward to moments like that. I've had a lot of really cool things happen to me in my life, right? A lot of really good times, a lot of really good emotions, energy and motion, emotion, energy, and it's all energy,
Mm-hmm.
right? The energy that I felt in that room that day with her, that's what I want. That's what my, that right there, where do I get in line for that? And I now get to do that. I don't really get to do a whole lot of that anymore now because I'm, busy doing things like this and talking to other facilities and sharing, what it is that we do
Mm-hmm.
and how we do it, which, by the way, is how you and I, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you said to me back when we first met, why would you do this? Why would you share this message with other people? Well, because it's not me. People tell me all the time when they hear about what we do at Beacon and how much success we have with reference to teaching people how to stay off drugs
Mm-hmm.
and alcohol. And they always say to me, oh, not always, but oftentimes they're like, oh my gosh, Tony, you're so smart. And I get to share my testimony, right? Mm, no, no, I'm not. I mean, look, my ego would love, when I was younger, I longed for this type of opportunity to say, yeah, yeah, I got
Mm-hmm.
Beacon Recovery. We're doing really good. And we've got, all these employees. And we've got, oh my gosh, I am the big shot and I'm so smart. That's what I thought I wanted,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's not the truth. Yeah, I'm not smart enough for this. But I am smart enough to do what I'm told.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what he would have me do. When I was younger, playing baseball in high school, I really thought I was going to play pro ball. Matter of fact, the high school I was playing on, making the varsity as a sophomore, which doesn't happen, there's scouts from like, professional baseball teams sitting in our stands watching me play baseball. I'm going to go play pro ball. I just know it. But no, God had other ideas, right?
Why
Okay.
didn't you?
Because God had other ideas. It
But
just
what happened?
I joined the Navy,
Oh. Mm-hmm.
right? To get mostly out of an abusive, limiting belief environment. I mean, when your dad is beating the living out of you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, you're not good enough, right? When there's a lot of psychological stuff going on out there, because that's the environment.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided, well, I'm going to get out of here. The best avenue thought I could take, which actually turned out to be a pretty good move, was join the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really care for that. I worked in the engine room on the ship, and that wasn't a whole lot of fun. So I decided to get out of the Navy. I went into the Army, became a medic in the Army. That was a much better gig, right? Learn how to, save lives, work the emergency room, and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but, you know, those two jobs and every other job that I've ever had, that's not what God wanted me to do. When I prayed for um, what He wanted me to do, it was this.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, once I think I already mentioned to you that I told him no
Right.
for a hot minute.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went and I listened to a fella. Um, I got invited to a thing with single people,
Okay.
and I was going to that because I thought I was going to go, talk to some women,
Right.
right, afterwards. That didn't happen, by the way. I went straight home because what happened is I listened to this guy talk about serving,
Mm-hmm.
and he said it's really easy to serve people you love, your wife,
Yeah.
your kids, but the challenge comes with serving people that you don't even know. And he said that's when the Holy Ghost comes into the picture and takes over, and that's when the magic happens. So I'm sitting there in this place, and there's probably, well, I don't know, 300 or 400 people, and I'm over in my own little bubble having a conversation with God, saying, okay, you win. I'll do it with tears in my eyes,
Hmm.
right? Oh, well, I don't have any money, I say. Here we go,
Hmm.
being a knucklehead with God, right? And of course, he let me know with the love that he has, don't worry about that. Just go do what I'm telling you to do.
Yeah.
Because he knew something that I didn't know, right? Which was these are so when I go to Beacon, sometimes, I'll kind of roam around and I see the people that are there. And I wonder, where would they be if they weren't with us?
Hmm.
Would they be alive? I don't know. Would they have the opportunity to recognize how much they're loved from God and from Jesus? Because I did what I was told. An interesting story about that. So we do a grand opening for Beacon years ago, and a lady shows up. I don't remember her name. Don't even know how she came, but she's talking about this thing called neurofeedback. And I'm at a party. Got a guy over in the corner playing the guitar. I got hors d'oeuvres going on, and I leave and I listen to what she has to say. And I'm thinking, yeah, we're going to do that. Well, but we're not going to do it right now because it's like wicked expensive. The equipment, neurofeedback equipment is not cheap by any stretch.
Do you remember what she said to you that caused you to think, yes, I'm going to do that?
No, but I do remember the important part of that equation,
Mm.
her energy.
Okay.
So as we communicate, my here we are. My truth is, I think that as we communicate as human beings, we do so three different ways at the exact same time.
Mm-hmm.
One is verbal,
Mm-hmm.
which everybody can hear my voice. Hello, right? The other is energy or body language.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm sitting here in an open body position, other than my legs being crossed. But
Mm-hmm.
then the last is energy. Now, verbal and body language, we can be deceitful. I could be lying to you right now. I'm not, but I could be,
Mm-hmm.
right? And some of these control freaks out there that can control their body language, they can be deceitful that way as well. But one
Mm-hmm.
way they can't be is with energy. Energy just does not lie. It can't. It won't. Well, her energy was spot on, and I knew what she was sharing with me. Even though I didn't know much about neurofeedback, I knew what
Mm-hmm.
she was sharing with me was the truth.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it when I can afford to,
Mm-hmm.
right? Uh, which of course is going to be never, right? Because not only is equipment very expensive, I got to do a lot of construction to make room for it. I got to take my staff. I got to pull somebody off of what they're doing that I can bill an insurance company for and put them on neurofeedback. So that person, whoever they are, and in this case, it was one of my therapists making, I don't know, $30 or $40 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
She's still going to get paid, but I can't do anything to get reimbursed for her time. So it's just a big giant, even though I know it works, it's a big giant no. Because, well, from a business perspective, it's not a smart move
Yeah.
for me to do that. It's actually not. It's the opposite of smart, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's what God wanted me to do. But I wasn't doing it. Well, one day, right, I wake up, boom. And the instant I wake up, the first thing that comes to my mind, and I feel the words, pull the trigger. Now, he wasn't talking about going out and taking, target practice, right? I knew what he was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I laid there thinking, oh my gosh, really? But it was one of those that don't even try to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing this. So I'm like, okay, who touched me? Faith,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, I'm going to go spend a bunch of money that I don't have to do it, and I'm not going to make any money. I'm just going to do it because you're telling me to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So off we go. I'm 3 months in, losing money left and right. And the billing company that we were dealing with at the time, the owner of that company called me and he said, "Hey, Tony, I sent you this email. Did you?" I'm like, "No, I didn't. No, you need to see this email. Now, turn to page 20, whatever." And there on the screen is the new codes for Medicaid. Now, in those codes are codes for neurofeedback. I will never forget. Um, the way I felt
Mm.
for as long as I'm alive. That moment,
Mm.
I I had to excuse myself and go be private and um, just gratitude,
Mm-hmm.
so much gratitude. And speaking of gratitude, in my personal opinion, gratitude is the key to abundance.
Yeah.
We must be grateful. And in that moment, I was so grateful, right? Because now we get to make money with the neurofeedback, not because we want to make money, but because we get to get reimbursed and we get to continue to further what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And the neurofeedback piece, right? If you talk to, my clinical director, right, who's been a therapist for quite a minute, 20 something years, um, he will tell you that, therapy, and that's okay. We still do therapy at Beacon, but the neurofeedback piece is vital,
Mm-hmm.
right? Neuroplasticity, it's a thing
Oh yeah.
where the brain can be well fixed for
Mm-hmm.
any number of things. Not to mention somebody making poor choices because they're addicted to whatever they're addicted to. But we want different outcomes, but we can't really achieve those different outcomes because we can't make the different choices. We aren't making, you know, with neurofeedback, we literally are retraining the brain.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, right, with a pretty high level of certainty that we were with guaranteed the first facility for addiction in the state of Utah, probably in the country, but for sure in the state of Utah. And how can I tell you that I know this for an absolute pretty close to fact? Is because when I started doing it, it cost me a lot of money for the equipment
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't getting any money back. So when you're a businessman, it's not very smart for you to go out and spend money on something that you're not going to get you're not going to get return on your investment.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. So I know other people weren't doing it, okay, because you're not going to make any money doing it. Now there have been others since, right, that have recognized, oh wow, we can make money with that. So now we're going to do it. Good for you. I'm glad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why now, not just Medicaid and Medicare, but other private insurance companies are now also reimbursing for neurofeedback.
Ah.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But they weren't back then,
Mm-hmm.
right? They weren't. We use ketamine, right? That also works on the brain,
Yeah.
but in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And ketamine isn't for everybody, and it's not a lifelong sentence. Like, say, for instance, oh, I don't know, when those knuckleheads got in front of whoever they got in front of to get permission to bring Suboxone and Subutex into this mix, right? Which both serve a purpose, but it serves a purpose with something known as titration. I mean, we're gonna taper. So these people, I'm sure, I wasn't there, I didn't see the footage, but I'm sure that whoever got in front of our decision makers up in Washington and said, oh, hey, we want to bring these two things in because it'll help people with their pain, with it being addicted to heroin, right? Which, by the way, was created by these very people, pharmaceuticals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. Let's just delve into that one real quick. I don't know how much time we have, but we're going to talk about this one real quick.
Well, I'm not sure how much time we have either because before you dive into there, I wanted to ask, do you still want to bring Lee into this conversation?
Or to turn the phone off. Yeah, you'll get it. But let's talk about this.
Sure.
I'm at the VA
Mm-hmm.
getting a surgery on my foot, right? And they had to shave something off this knuckle on my right foot.
Okay.
Then, after they did that, they drilled some holes into the bone. I know, right?
Yeah.
This was, according to them, to promote, if I remember correctly, blood flow,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I woke up, I was right as rain. I had zero pain in my foot.
Wow.
Yeah. So they gave me this little thing that little scooter. You can, you've seen them, right?
Oh yeah.
Where you can,
Aren't they called rascals where you like kneel on it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and they move real well,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't need that one. I got no pain in my foot at all.
Mm.
So I'm walking.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so that night, oh, and luckily for me, that doctor, he gave me some, I think, Motrin or some stupid shit
Mm-hmm.
for the pain. Now, if I'd have kept off of it like I was told, it probably wouldn't have been as bad as it was, but here I am. Now, I am in the worst pain of my entire life. I will never, that was the longest night on planet Earth for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm having dreams about pain, and I wake up and I'm crying because well, wait, that wasn't a dream. I really am in that much pain.
Mm.
And truth be known, if somebody would have given me an oxy, I don't care what,
Right.
I would have taken it.
Sure.
There's a lot of people that are given prescriptions for this shit, and they do take it. And I understand why, because that was a lot of pain that I was in.
Yeah.
But the problem is, these people get hooked on something other than relief of the pain. There's something else that happens, and I don't know what it is, right? We're going to talk with What's Her Face.
That's what I was just thinking when you said that. I
Yeah,
thought, oh, well, Kelly,
yeah,
Kelly will tell us about
yeah.
that in our next
Yeah,
podcast.
so we've got a gal that works for our UA company who is
Hmm.
a doctor, right? Who's going to talk about this very thing that I don't understand.
Yeah.
But it gets past that. And now they're addicted to something other than because the pain is long gone.
Mm.
Well, then it gets to the point where that prescription
Mm-hmm.
runs out. Well, I'm addicted. So what do I do?
Yeah.
Well, I go out on the street because I'm
Mm-hmm.
so desperate for whatever that is. And that same pill that I was taking that wasn't really costing me hardly anything, paying my copay, but now, depending, we're talking, oh, I don't know, 40, 60, $80 per pill.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people out on the street that for doing however they're doing, whatever they're doing to get that same thing, well, they're going to make that kind of money, right? Well, eventually that doesn't work. If I'm married, I've tapped into our bank account. I've, pawned my wife's, silverware from her great grandparents, and anything else. She's long since gone. I'm now not with my kids, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm that guy. And this is a very common thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is real, right? It happens all the time. So now at some point, because I'm just strung out, I've done things I would have never. Oh, and if I'm a woman, oof, yeah, I'm really doing some stupid shit to feed that addiction, right? But at some point, the person I'm getting those pills from says, hey, this bag, this is heroin, and now it's fentanyl. This is a lot cheaper and a lot more effective. So I'm like, I'll do anything because I'm addicted. So they start doing heroin, right? And that happens for quite some time. But then they realize, well, I don't want to do this anymore. So they go to somebody like me or someplace, and they are given, for the pain that is involved with coming off of heroin,
Mm-hmm.
Suboxone
Mm-hmm.
or Subutex. Okay? Now what have we done? Well, we've substituted this one that is legal, or actually that's illegal, for this one that is legal. Now, and who's paying for this? Well, we are. But the person that's on Medicaid, it's not costing them anything, but somebody's paying for this. But the pharmaceutical companies that are out there pushing this stuff, they don't care. All they care about is their money, and they're making millions and billions because of this,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So it starts when we give a prescription for this painkiller or whatever, right? That's where it starts, but it continues with the Suboxone and Subutex. And I don't want the folks that make Suboxone and Subutex, Suboxone, don't get mad at me. Oh, and by the way, remember we talked about if you can tell me something that's not true,
Or maybe if you do get mad, then email.
if anybody can say what I'm saying right now is not the truth, let's have a discussion because my truth tells me that this is exactly what's happening.
What's your email address again?
Tony at beaconrecoveryutah.com, and that's with two E's. Beacon is two E's.
Yes,
And
be like the
yeah,
buzz
yeah,
bee.
right. And
Beacon.
Utah is spelled out. Tony at beaconrecoveryutah.com.
There you go.
No, but tell me I'm wrong. But my world tells me this is exactly what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
What we do at Beacon is say, we're going to get you off of all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even the Suboxone, the Subutex. We took a patient from another facility. I'm not going to mention any names, but the medical provider at that other facility told this lady that she's going to be taking Suboxone for the rest of her life.
Uh-huh.
She actually, and the lady, the patient, is telling me that the lady from the facility is telling her this.
Right.
And that's why the lady's at my facility because I'm saying, no, you're not going to be taking that stuff for the rest of your life. We're going to get you off that, right? You don't need to be on that. But you know what? The people that are making that crap, I'm sorry, the people that are making that stuff, they want you to be on that.
Are you really sorry?
No, not really. Well, you know what? I don't know because it does, I think. It does serve a purpose,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, if it's going to assist you with the pain that you're in, okay, well then let's do what we were told it was going to be. Let's titrate these people. Let's talk about. Let's have a conversation about. Okay, today, and I don't know because I'm, I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on TV, so I really can't tell you exactly how it goes. But I think it's something along the lines of, okay, this is the milligram you're on right now.
Mm-hmm.
So next week, next month, whatever it is, whatever that milligram, we're gonna go down a little bit, not a lot, right? We're gonna take baby steps. So let's say, and once again, I don't know the milligrams, but let's say we're at 50. We're not going to take it at 10 next week. Maybe we're going to go from 50 to 40 or whatever it is. But eventually we're going to be down to something where we stop taking it. It's not going to be that much of a hit for you because you've slowly weaned yourself off of this.
Yeah,
That's not what's happening,
I know.
right?
I have friends who have been in treatment and uh, literally begged the medical staff to take them off of Suboxone, and they wouldn't. They have to.
Now,
They have had to. Seemingly go to war to be
and
able to get off of.
okay, I have two words to why that's not happening. You ready? Cha-ching.
Yeah,
Were those words? You know what I meant. That's
I
why.
think that's technically. Is it an onomatopoeia? Maybe.
But
Oh,
that's exactly what's happening.
right.
Because if you stop taking that, I stop making as much money. Look, these pharmaceutical companies, they're wicked smart. They get these real pretty women and men to go to these doctors' offices and say, oh, I'll buy you lunch and I'll blah, 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 and you just keep on prescribing hard drugs, right? I'm here to tell you that there are other ways. There's a lot of natural things out there you can use. Now, look, I'm not over here living in a glass house throwing rocks, right? I take a pill for heartburn, right? And there's probably some stuff out there that I could take that's better for me than whatever pill is that the VA gives me for my heartburn, right? Really.
Hmm.
Um, but that pill for heartburn, I mean, I could just, do other things. It's not ruling my life.
Yeah.
I'm not selling, the farm to feed that addiction. I'm just not, right? I'm functioning. I actually go out and I get stuff done. Sometimes my life gets a little overwhelming, right?
So I want to come back to the story of the woman who we don't know her name, who
Oh,
said,
I love her. I really do. I love her
yes,
so much.
the
Yeah.
woman of faith who only had to touch the hem of Jesus's
Yeah.
garment, and the condition that she was in after 12 years of suffering, which made such a miraculous
Yeah.
healing possible.
These shirts bug me. And by the way, I wore this thing,
Yes,
right? Because this is our first,
right.
right? I'm not going to tell you that I won't wear a suit in the future. I might,
Okay.
but I wore this one with these cufflinks and all this stuff and this, right? Because this is the first one.
Because it's important to
This is
you.
yeah, it is.
Yes.
And I'm going to show up for anybody that can hear this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how I'm going to show up for you,
Yeah.
right? So that's why. But they
Wonderful.
still, just so
We're almost done.
okay. I just, no, it's okay. I'm much more comfortable in boots and a t-shirt,
Sure.
but I can wear this,
Yeah, whatever you
yeah,
want.
yeah. Okay. So, okay, back to what we were
So
talking
the
about.
so the woman, and the state of being, the state her spirit was in, the necessary suffering. One phrase that I remember from my religious upbringing was a contrite spirit. She definitely had a contrite spirit.
Yeah.
And so, we're talking about Suboxone and Subutex, and
And
I have,
Vivitrol
yeah, and
and
I've been in the world. I've
yeah,
been in this world for nearly 20 years, and I've watched
yeah,
a lot of things come through, a lot of change happen. I mean, ironically, when I got sober, there wasn't even Facebook. That's how sober old I am.
yeah,
Or if there was, it was barely. I think it was 2008 when people really started
yeah.
scrolling into Facebook. And anyway, so there's been a lot of change, and what I see with Subutex and Suboxone and all of those other things are uh, devaluing of the necessary suffering for
Yeah.
our
Hey,
spirit
I like that.
for the honesty to really be pulled out of us by desperation, like you were talking about, like the
Yeah.
pain in your toe, like where we are so in so much pain, whether it's physical or spiritual. Personally,
Or mental.
when I
Yeah.
got sober, I was in a lot of spiritual pain, I would say.
Hold
And
on a sec, Sarah.
hmm,
If I'm understanding what you're saying to me right now, are you telling me that those things that we don't necessarily enjoy are actually for our betterment and for our good?
yes,
Huh.
yes,
Wow. There's an interesting concept.
right.
They say that tempered steel is stronger than regular steel, tempered being worked over,
Mm, mm-hmm,
right? So you're saying the suffering that you're going through
mm-hmm.
is something you can learn from.
Absolutely. And beyond that, I would say that it's necessary.
Oh,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Yes. Full circle.
We'll,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. We'll come back to
Yeah.
do part B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll pick up at necessary suffering. I think that would be wonderful.